Yay! I think I don't know now. I think I won't adjust. It probably should be. Civilization just finished. This is it's a game I got early high school, maybe late middle school in our area, but I guess people call it junior high in many places. It when I first saw it advertised in the general, when I saw it at the store, my thought was, I don't know, it's an expensive game. It comes with a lot of pieces. It's an exciting topic, there's no question. But everything kind of said about it made me think it would be too light. It wouldn't be the kind of war game, the kind of detail I'd want. And in a lot of ways it's not. When I was given it as a gift, there was this initial feeling of, oh boy, I can't believe they spent, so much on something for me, first of all. That was the biggest kind of, oh. I don't take gifts well. But then there was also the, I don't even, I wasn't willing to buy this for myself. Not because it was just expensive, but because I was really afraid of it. Well, we couldn't play it that night. Learning the rules on my birthday party, my mom had us go on this trek to find treasures that she had set up and whatever. We were all D&Ders at that point, and I don't know. It was a couple weeks before we got together a group to play this, and it was a lot of fun. And I soloed it before that already. I took it to groups here, there, and everywhere. Just, introducing it to people, they loved the game. It's got this fantastic subject matter, or theme, if you like, depending on how much you want to look at the, how well tied it is to some sort of reality. It's got these mechanisms that foreshadowed everything in the modern Euros. Not every type of system, but this trading, very much like what you see in Settlers of Catan later. All this board presence and maneuvering and everything, the calculations, can I beat someone there, can I knock them down, this kind of thing, what do I need exactly to make, all with a very clean and elegant system, the combat system, the movement, all very simplistic. No real luck in the game. That may shock you because there's cards. Well, without the expanded trade deck, there really isn't. You can count everything. There may or may not, depending on how you interpret the rolls, be luck involved in the first two decks of cards. But those are pretty unimportant. When the expanded trade comes out, it becomes a big deal. Did I get, a die or a gems? That's huge, because you could match up or not based on that and then have to make an additional trade or not. Sometime soon after I got this, and I want to talk a little about components at some point, but sometime soon after I got this, I got the expanded trade cards. My general magazine came and it acts like it gives you stuff. I don't know. By subscription, I thought you got everything. Well, I never got anything in it. I never got the inserts or anything. I don't know if there were inserts with these cards, but I had to send away, get them separate. Same with Kingmaker. It was part of what disgusted me about my subscription to the general, actually, and made it so that I never ordered it again, and never tended to buy games from it. And when you saw it on the store shelf, it obviously didn't have an insert. But some people got these. The best I got was like maybe a piece of card stock like this with, an ASL scenario or three on it and a feedback card or something. That's what I think came with them. I didn't get anything interesting with them. No counter sheets, nothing. Everything was always you had to send away and buy it. And either that was, like I thought at the time, a general case, or maybe I'm beginning to suspect that these came with things and I just didn't get them. Either way, I got screwed as far as I was concerned. I wasn't going to do it again. The difference between the game with the expanded trade cards and not is huge. I brought up a lot of those issues throughout the play and in the prequel. And I want to kind of cap this with the thought of, and I repeat this from the rap really, the expanded trade cards I think make the game more fun for my kind of person. I'm watching, there's a lot less thought, a lot less effort. It's all on the trades. As long as you can cut trades, they're there to be made, and if you've got reasonable cards, you can score them into something valuable that you can buy your civilization cards with. Without the expanded trade cards, it's tough. People know and can see from all those additional calamities how fragile every empire is. And actually, I kind of like that from a historical standpoint. In every way, to me, this is a better game without those expanded trade cards. But less fun. It's more calculating. You've got to worry more. You've got to think more. It's harder to make your goals. It's not almost a second nature kind of thing. Now, a lot of that may actually be me, picking this up again after, I don't know how many years it's been. At least 15 years, I would guess, since I've played it. And that probably factors in. I made a lot of errors. There were things that I used to remember being kind of automatic. But all those calamities slow the game down. They prevent you from pushing forward. They make you weaker so people can take actions against you to further slow things down. It becomes almost reasonable to, in any game of this, you can embargo trade on someone if they're running ahead. I'm not used to anybody running away with the game, though, except maybe me, in the expanded deck. And in this deck, in this game, if somebody does have a lead, it is so easy to bring them back to the pack. So easy. That may actually be a disadvantage to some, but here's the problem. There are powers, and I definitely went through this, with the expanded trade cards that are just so advantaged over those without, because everybody's going to cross that line at the same time. And so the balancing aspects that the AST takes over at the far end, these point scores, those go away. They become unimportant. Likewise, this initial hit that Babylon and Egypt takes on an enhanced significance. Without the expanded trade cards, you can hold back a turn and end up in better shape. I've seen, there was a guy who learned that and then was playing ASIF, not for the first time, and he would still always hold back a turn. With those, with Crete, I didn't see a point. It was, okay, you just made yourself out of the game, essentially, really. But it's something that he learned from the original game, and he wasn't able to forget it, I don't think. Anyway, let's talk a little about the components, and then we'll go through some overall. The map was one of those crappy Avalon Hill folded together maps that tend to warp. Mine luckily hasn't broken, but I'm sure it will someday, into, a dozen pieces. These were just a horrible design, and I love my paper maps so much more. Avalon Hill had the hard maps as well that had a crease in them. People didn't like the crease. This was their answer. These were really not very effective. The chart's really useful. Separates things out, gives you the census tract, etc., place to hold the cards. All very nice, but it adds to the footprint of the game. And this is a big game space-wise. As do all these charts. Now, on my table, I was able to actually fit the whole thing throughout, but all the cards were just, kind of piled out. It's only because I have this recognition and understanding of them that's pretty good, that comes with a lot of play, that I understand and didn't really need everything spread out so I could see it. If you had to spread it out to see it all, you need a much larger table with 7 players. Little trading cards are hard to shuffle. But here's something from the very beginning I noticed, which is that the texture quality of the new trading cards is very different from that of the old ones. The old ones have a sort of slickness to it. Now here's what's funny. Almost from the beginning, I was looking at those from the very beginning, I looked at the old ones and said, oh man, I'm shuffling these new ones in. It's obvious which one's which, both by texture and also even by look. You can kind of see there's some difference in color. Avalon Hill was very bad at matching colors. They did a worse job of it on the Dune expansions than the Space Gamer, a different company, managed. Come on, you should be able to match your own game's components. They were very sloppy about this, and in this game it is somewhat important because if you see an old card in someone's hand, it could be a disaster. Now, ACIV answers the whole question of that. The little cards design with the point value set up there works pretty well. It's kind of hard to explain that to players a lot of times. A lot of times they screw up, or I fail to explain it properly, but I'd rather blame this student. They screw up, and lots of nice counters. For this era, these were, really good counters. Matte finish, first of all, which is awesome. Double-sided, big size, with an icon, an image of kind of something representative of the civilization on all the counters. The regular men had a particular picture from the civilization, but then also you had the circles, which had one, and the boats, I'm not sure if they're different. I think the boats are all the same. The boats look different too. I'm not sure how representative they are. It's kind of the Titan make everything look a little different. The box is barely big enough to hold it all, though. As you can see, my poor box is pushed out. This would be a good representative for your GMT kind of armored boxes, which have a lot of space in them for some reason. Anyway, where was I? I don't know. This original game was an absolute classic in its era. I mean, it still is. It gave you, I see it as sort of a proto-Euro, Euro style. The Euro games that came later, so there's this whole Euro game tradition, which includes all kind of stuff not including Civ. It includes lighter games, kind of family games. Somewhere in there, for some reason, something like Die Macher sits around. But then comes the 90s. And you start seeing something that looks targeted a little differently from these other European games. And this is what American gamers usually mean when they're talking about Euro games, right? They mean that stuff that started coming over with Settlers of Catan and Medici and stuff. These games where you had to really think to do things. And in a sense, I would say the Crayon Rails games Mayfair put out were of this tradition before the Euro games were hitting in the US. This game was this monster prototype of it. And in a way, 18XX is a somewhat more complicated proto-Euro. And what you got with the Euro, revolution or whatever, was lots and lots of these games that were smaller and lighter. And now you're starting to see heavier ones that are filling, that 4 or 5 hour period or whatever. They're working their way up, but they're working their way up in a different way as well. They're beginning to get to the point where the decisions that you make are still all open to you. You have lots and lots of stuff to see, but those decision-making processes are getting so complicated and tangled. Civ never felt that way to me. Now, what's strange is looking at it now, trying to stop someone feels that way. But I don't think that most of the modern complex Euros can ever feel like second nature to what you do. Of course, I see people who play like it is. Oh, oh yeah. As though, it's just obvious that what they're doing is the right thing, and I'm just sitting there saying, you calculated all this out? And it shocks me. Of course, I'm an analysis paralysis person when it comes to these, but it didn't bother me with Civ. Now it's beginning to at this point. Maybe my poor mind is becoming, or my brain is becoming ossified or something. But what did feel this way was A-Civ. A-Civ felt like they took civilization, throwing the trade cards in, new calamities apparently, I don't remember it that well. Tons and tons of new advances to buy. So what it came down to was this huge calculation problem of you have what you want in your mind. Can I get there? Can I afford to buy it? Can I get something less that I'm okay with? Just across the board, so many different choices to purchase on each turn. Very much like Age of Renaissance in that. And to me, it just caused huge headaches. It wasn't pleasant at all to play. Now you could say the competition involved in this, the calculations to see, can I take down the leader? Can I get the guy I want to target? But that's a more limited scale. It doesn't usually happen early in the game, first of all. You don't care if somebody's a space ahead early in the game in the original game. You better care big time with the expanded trade cards. A-Civ, it's not even that simple horse race anymore. At the end of the game, no matter how many people cross the line, it could only be one, you still got to count up everybody's victory points. You just get a bonus for crossing it quicker. It took away a lot of this sort of elegance of the design of the original game. And to me, it's that elegance, and then the fact that there's hard thought and complex decisions within that, I don't see as a negative to the game at all, even if it no longer appeals to me as much as it once did. And it may again. It may simply be that I've become such a solo gamer that I'm no longer pleased by that, because I remember loving 18XX or Civ for how much you could dick someone over in the games. So I think I went gaming yesterday in person and kind of felt a little bit of that flavor again that I don't usually feel anymore these days. But I think I dropped that out even long before I went solo gaming by shifting away from the eurogames towards the beginning of the millennium. Anyway, all I can say is, let's go into another thing. The name of the game. So this has an interesting history. And I looked it up a little bit, to follow up, because I knew it was somewhat linked in. This is the game that in a way forced Avalon Hill under. Heartland Trefoil published this first. They bought, I think, all rights to it from Heartland Trefoil. That's my understanding, but I'm not, the lawyer, and I don't have the inside information. They published it, several printings, made buku bucks. Company named Microprose, long after this game made its big splash, comes out with a game by the same name, a computer game. Alright, Avalon Hill's not happy about this. They sue Microprose. Microprose, I'm not sure what ends up happening, but Microprose has tons and tons of money. They go muddy up the whole situation by buying Heartland Trefoil. Okay? And I think killing it. They just want the copyright information. You know how businesses work. It doesn't matter what your business is. You have some piece of property that's valuable to me. intellectual property bullshit. Well, it's not like Avalon Hill didn't start the problem on the trademark issue. Here's the problem. I don't see a trademark on here. Yeah, I do. I see trademark name. Okay. And then, sometime, years and years pass. Microprose countersues saying we own the company that made it, so therefore. And anyway, and eventually, this is all why Hasbro buys out Avalon Hill. Because they do a couple of things. They give a pile of money to Monarch Avalon for the company. Because they want, again, they want one or two titles, and they want this brand name. The brand name, people will remember that, right? And they destroy the company. And as far as I'm concerned, Hasbro was destroying other game companies, but they didn't matter to me too much. I'm like, okay, so you killed Parker Brothers and you killed Milton Bradley. All right, but yeah, it's just come to the point where I will not ever buy a Hasbro game, right? I don't care what they do. They have systematically destroyed the gaming companies in the United States and turned them into one thing. They keep the brand names, but there was a different flavor between Parker Brothers games and Milton Bradley games. They had different design staff, principles, etc. there. Those were destroyed, turned into one big, if we can sell it, this is our big one, and we've destroyed all our competition. And that, I bet you, Hasbro's growth is actually, conglomeration is actually a small factor in the growth of the Eurogame market in the U.S. It's this rebellion against the monopolist idea. Anyway, this gave Avalon Hill the out. They were no longer being countersued. They were no longer bleeding money trying to fight this lawsuit against a company with big pockets. And they got a pile of cash to boot. They wouldn't have gotten this off of trying to sell whatever it was, Monsters Molest America or whatever. That was the one game that was desired. Also, Hasbro wanted to clean up the Microprose suit. So here's the thing. They own Microprose too. So they were able to negate the lawsuit, essentially. Anyway, I hate big business for shit like that, right? Great game though. Even if I don't like it as much as I once did, this has given me so many hours of pleasure over the years, and I would assume there's no reason that I can think of that it wouldn't hold up just as well now, except for time. Modern gamers don't like putting in more than a couple hours to a game, and that's sad, but that's the only negative to this game, I think, from the modern gamer's point of view.